Thank you.
I got you.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to ANC3F's last meeting. It's our December meeting, and we decided to make it December 13th because just due to the holiday season. And I just want to remind everyone that our job is to connect constituents in ANC3F with federal agencies. We are advisory in nature. And due to this being the last meeting, I want to thank every commissioner on this call, included David Christelle, who is not able to make it tonight. He's not able to make it tonight. But thank him for his leadership in our first year. It's been a quick 2 years. This last year has been really tough. And this commission, all the commissioners have been amazing. And we have made it a point this year to make sure that we connected constituents to government agencies. You never saw a meeting where we had a discussion and there was not a federal agency on the call. So if there was ever an issue, we were very productive, very deliberate about how we handled issues in the community. We never had a discussion on issues on the community without someone from the federal agency on the call. I'm sorry, DC agency, sorry, thank you. DC agencies on the call to be able to answer questions, because if MPD advises you to call 911, that's what you do. We cannot protect you. We connect you to the agencies that can help you. So, just in thinking about that and think about your protection. This is a public meeting, it's recorded. Follow the advice of MPD. If they're telling you to call 911, if there are any threats that you're experiencing. I also want people to know that our public meetings are not the only avenue that we have to connect with constituents. We also are on a daily, we're on emails with constituents, and we're connecting constituents via email, and we're getting agencies to respond. A lot of times they do written responses as well. So I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page with that, knowing that this is not the only way that we've been connecting our constituents with federal agencies. And so with that said, I will call this meeting to order, and we'll start with roll call. And I will go with who I see first, and that is Commissioner Alexandria Appa.
Present.
Commissioner Monica Namath.
Present.
Commissioner Stan Wall.
Present.
Commissioner Deepa Mehta.
Present.
Commissioner James Tenderick.
Present.
And thank you. And that's all the commissioners we have tonight. I did not miss anyone. And again, Commissioner Christelle is, he's out. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is the adoption of tonight's meeting agenda. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Stan, your hand is raised.
Yeah, Chair David, I'd like to propose an amendment to the agenda, or addition to the agenda.
Yes.
And I really do want to give time to the Connecticut House Tenant Association to present, just what's been going on in their building. I do know that we have indeed tried to connect them to resources, but I think it would be useful for the community to hear what's happening. And for any of those agency partners or elected officials on the call to be able to hear what's happening there. So I'd like to make a motion to add them to the community forum immediately before we go into the regular agenda.
So the community forum is open, it's an open forum. So the list you see there is the list of people that I just know are going to speak, they normally speak.
Okay,
So-
I just want to make sure we have a room for them in that period to speak to what's been happening in that building. And if we
James
don't need to do
Sanderick,
amendment for it, then as long as we give them time, that's fine with me.
James Sanderick has his hands raised.
Hi, I would like to amend, so I know that we put currently in the if you scroll down the second page, there was something about there's a permit for the beer and wines. We put it as a regular agenda, but it's proposed that we put it as an action item, mainly because the permit has to be filled out by this month, so we mainly have to be able to vote on it this month. So I move the permit for beer and wines for 4221 Connecticut Avenue liquor license to the regular agenda.
We'll vote on these items. Yeah, okay.
It'd be like
Oh, it'll
probably
be
after
the-
like 4111 Kennecket's.
So it'll be the first item under the items we vote on. Okay, beer and wines. Okay,
Chair David, can you
Yes.
confirm that the Connecticut House Tenant Association will be able to speak?
it's an open forum.
Okay.
So you see there's other updates.
Okay, I just want to make sure, like, I didn't hear.
Oh, this is the
confirmation.
community portion, so
Okay, that works. Thank you.
Are there any amendments to the agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second,
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the amendment has been approved. Moving to the next item on the agenda is approval of ANC3F meeting minutes from November 15, 2022. Is there a discussion about the minutes, the November meeting minutes? Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes for November?
I motion to approve the meeting minutes for our November 15th meeting.
Is there a second?
I
Second.
second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? And so moved. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is the commissioner update. And I would just start just in order of how I see things on my screen. So I would just start with Commissioner Appa.
I don't have any major updates to share. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Namath.
Well, I don't have any updates, but I do want to take this moment to thank everyone. This is my last meeting as a commissioner. I have served 2 terms, including a stint as chair of ANC3F. And I just want to thank my constituents for the faith they placed in me during these past 4 years. And it was an honor to serve this community. And I certainly have enjoyed it. At times, it has been maddening. I think that new commissioners will find out that this can be very rewarding, while at times very maddening. And I'm very happy that I did this. I thoroughly enjoyed this, truthfully, even at times when it was maddening. And I certainly may do this again someday in the future. I just felt it was time for me to take a break. But I do want to thank everyone for your support, for your confidence in me when I was elected and reelected. And I look forward to seeing everyone again in the community. Just because I will not be your commissioner doesn't mean I'm going to disappear. You will still see me around, still very much an active member of the community. So thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Namath. And thank you for your guidance all this time as well. Commissioner Wall.
Just want to echo very quickly Commissioner Nemeth's comments that I also thank the community for having the opportunity to serve the community. And very similarly, I'm not moving or leaving the area and continue to and wish to be engaged going forward and look forward to supporting the incoming ANC come January. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Meta.
I don't have any community updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tenderick.
I just want to thank those that all the commissioners that are will be coming back next month. I was really happy just to be able to work with you guys the past year and a half. And take a month to rest, take a breather, take a break. And then when you're ready, come back and rejoin the ANC, part of our committees. We look to you all for your guidance and leadership. And so we hope that, you continue to be involved in the community. So yeah, thank you those that, are they're not coming back next month. And I know that me and Commissioner David are looking forward to work with the ones that will be starting next month.
Thank you, Commissioner Tenderick. Now moving on to the next item on the agenda is committee reports. Have we got anyone from the streets, or is anyone available to do an update from the Streets and Sidewalks Committee?
Yes, Commissioner David, I am here. It's Bob Dealing. I'll be glad to give a quick report.
Yes, and if someone could spotlight Bob Dealing.
That's okay. I turned my video on, but it's okay if people can just hear me. Let me just say that the Streets and Sidewalks Committee has not met this month because of the holidays, etc. We look forward to the new year and of course all the new commissioners and to meeting them and letting them know what the committee's been doing over the last several years. We have some resolutions we'd like to follow up on, so we look forward to both the new and the continuing commissioners and to our continued progress in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we got anyone to give an update from Parks and Watersheds Committee? Have we got anyone to give updates from Schools and Universities Committee?
I can give that. So we sort of had a November or December meeting, because usually our December meetings are the fourth week, but it's going to be the holidays, so there wouldn't be, we'll all be be busy and doing stuff like that. So we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and we talked a lot about just plans for 2023, things we want to pursue, mainly with UDC, Hearst as well too. And I say it every single month. If you want to be a member of our committee, I am looking for a new chair for our committee as well. I've been sort of the interim chair for the past couple of months, and we're looking for some new people. So if you want to get involved, please feel free to email me. Put my email in the chat. You can always just DM me, direct message me on Zoom if you want to get involved, and I'd be happy to point you in the right direction.
Thank you, Commissioner Tenderick. Is there an update from Housing and Neighborhoods Committee?
I don't think anyone's available right now for the Housing and Neighborhoods Committee, and I think we are still looking for a new chair. I don't remember if Ryan stepped down or not, but we also need folks for the Housing and Neighborhoods Committee. So folks who are just as James said, if you are inclined to join, please do. This is how both Commissioner Tenderick and I started on the ANC. So we really hope that folks will join next year.
All right, thank you. Now moving on to the next item of the agenda is the community forum, and I will go in order of that I have set up right now. Wanted to identify the newly elected commissioners for 2023. and give them an opportunity to just introduce themselves. The ones who are able to make it tonight, I know Terry Hewitt can't make it tonight, but I saw Ryan on.
Hello. I don't know if you can see me. I think you're still on spotlight view.
We can see you, Ryan.
Okay, I can't see anyone else, I guess. But sorry, my lighting's awful right now. I need one of those ring lights. But hi, I'm representing, or I'm going to be the commissioner for 3F01 if swearing in goes without a hitch. And yeah, I am relatively new to the area. I moved into the area in 2019, but I'm really excited to represent and just try and get community voices better represented. Not to say that's not already happening, but just that's my own little shtick.
Thank you, Ryan. Good to hear from you. I don't know if I have Mitch or Courtney on right now. I don't think I have any. Okay, I don't think I have anyone else on.
Commissioner David, Mitch might get on a little bit later on, so maybe we can table like his part for maybe a little later in the call.
Okay. Moving on to the next item is University of the District of Columbia for updates.
Hi, Commissioner David, thank you. First, I would like to start off by thanking Commissioner Nemeth for her service. I think as long as I've been here, she's been here over the years, and we have had a very good working relationship. She's a true friend of the university, and you will be missed. So thank you for your service, as well as Commissioner Wall. We haven't worked with each other as long, but you two have been a friend of the university and you will be missed. So thank you both for your service. I'm happy to report that All Care's request for a certificate of need has been approved by the SHCC, which is the Statewide Health Coordinating Council.
Awesome.
The next step is for the agency director of SHPTA, which is the State Health Planning and Development Agency, to issue her decision and conditions. And we expect that to come sometime after the new year. And if you're wondering what those conditions might be, it may be quarterly reporting on Medicaid, enrollment, final MOU between the university and All Care and things like that. So that is moving along nicely. And we are happy and grateful for the support of the ANC on that. Work on moms is continuing. They are currently in a process of getting their signage approved by the Commission of Fine Art. Yeah, that's really all that's happening with them right now, in addition to just the construction that's going on. There's a lot of great things that I will be adding a link to issue 24 of our UDC forward. Some of the highlights of that issue include a visit from Brian McKeon, who is the Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources. Other highlights are the work that the university has been doing over at Anacostia High School, and then research that our students, faculty have been working on. So I will put the link to that in the chat, and then you can also sign up to get that newsletter sent straight to your email address through the link as well. And I see Commissioner Wall has his hand up.
Yep,
One quick question, if I may, Chair David. Juanita, thanks again for the updates. For the signage for moms, is there anything the ANC can or should do to help advance that with the CFA?
Not at the moment, but I will have our team reach out to moms and let them know that the ANC has offered to assist in any way that they can.
Okay, great. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tandari.
Hey, Juanita, just quick question. You mentioned so they're done with All Care, but what was the second group you mentioned? I'm writing minutes right now for it. Just gonna clarify. What did you say?
So there is the statewide health coordinating council. Is that the one?
Yes, that's the one.
SHPTA. Did you get SHPTA?
I got it now. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you, Commissioner David, for the time, and happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. And you're staying on for the resolution, correct?
Yes, I'll be here.
Okay, okay, thank you. And we've got Van Ness Main Street with Gloria Garcia. How are you, Gloria?
Good, a little tired, but very grateful. I want to echo everyone. I want to thank every outgoing commissioner from the bottom of my heart for your service. And I know that you will continue to be supportive of the neighborhood, but really thank you very much for your support of Van Ness Main Street and all of our events and all of our programs. So I'll be seeing you on the corridor. I won't take up much time. We finished the year with our holiday pop-up market. Thank you for all those that came out. It was a huge success. The vendors were happy. And once again, we pulled people from all over the DMV, from as far as Hyattsville, Navy Yard, Arlington, Foggy Bottom. People really did shop the Red Line. And we estimated with the vendors that we had more than 1,000 people come to the market. So we're super excited. And we just want to thank the community and the neighborhood and look forward to 2023. And I also want to, since Juanita's on, I really want to thank the University of the District of Columbia for their generosity and their support for our office space, for the amphitheater, and coming in 2023, hopefully the Van Ness Main Street fundraiser at the Theater of the Performing Arts. So yay. So, you know, I'll be seeing you around, and, you know, happy holidays to everyone and a safe entry into 2023.
Thank you, Gloria. Any questions from the commissioners?
I have a quick question. Gloria, still, I remember last, I think it was last meeting, you mentioned that you're still looking for board members. Are you still looking for board members?
You know, we are, the way we look through for board members is that they serve on our committees, you know, and come up through the ranks. Happy that Commissioner Mehta has, you know, sent a couple people my way. But yeah, you know, and I know that some of the commissioners are going to continue serving on some of my committees. But yes, please send, we can always use more people on all of our committees. And let me remind everyone, it's economic vitality or development, it's design, it's events and promotions. So, and I also wanted to chime in for Juanita, we can talk offline, but I'm happy to help Moms Organic with whatever the Main Street can do. We also can help push things along.
Have you got an update on the businesses in the community? So, and does that cover like the gas station that's nearby too? So there's Red Fox, there's something happening with, you know, Red Fox.
Yeah, Red Fox sent out an email. They're closing for personal family reasons. They're moving to Southern California. But there is already a business that will be coming early in January, as well as the Sugar Fox space. So I'm not at liberty to say yet, it's not public, but those spaces will not be empty for long.
Do you know anything about the gas station that's nearby too?
Oh, you mean the Exxon station that's boarded, the pumps are boarded up? Yeah. I sent an email to my contact and haven't heard back. I have no idea why the pumps are boarded up.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll let you know once I hear from Brian.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we've got, have we got any of our mokers on the line or on the call? All right, no moker. And I see the clan from Chairman Phil Mendelson's office.
Yes, hi. Thanks so much for having me, commissioners and community members, and happy holiday season to everyone. For those I haven't met yet, my name is Declan. I work in Chairman Mendelson's office as a part of his constituent services team. I'll put all of my contact info in the chat as soon as I'm done, but feel free to reach out at any point if you have questions or comments for the chairman. I'm happy to follow up on them. Or if there's something our constituent services team can help with, I'm happy to work on that as well. Just a super quick legislative update. The council is now wrapping up its legislative session. And this past Tuesday, there was a packed legislative meeting with, I think, around 54 bills on the agenda. Just a couple of items that have been in the headlines recently. There was a vote on the Safe Streets for Students Act that was approved unanimously that would create an Office of Safe Passage under the mayor to develop new strategies for safe passage around schools. There was also a vote on the Metro for DC Act that was approved unanimously, which makes Metro bus free in DC and creates overnight service for 12 of the busiest bus lines in the city, as well as a few other things. And there was a first vote on the Chairman's Schools First in Budgeting Act that passed. This bill would basically use current year funding as a baseline for the next year so that schools are less likely to lose money year to year. Those are just three of a whole lot of items that were on the agenda in last week's meeting. To learn more about the last meeting or to sign up to testify at future hearings, you can visit the chairman's website at chairmanmendelson.com. Those are my only updates at the moment. I am looking forward to joining more of your ANC's meetings next year, and I'll be in contact about that. And I'm happy to take any questions or comments if you have them.
Are there any questions? Mr. Bardeen.
I'm Declan. I'm interested in the legislation that the council passed and sent to the Congress for these, I think, 60-day reviews, has to do with right turns and other issues about traffic. And I believe this is legislation, I understand, from Chairman Mendelson's office. Oh, no, I understand from the committee, I'm sorry, that the mayor did not sign, but she didn't veto either. Do you have any information on when that the 60 days will be over and when that legislation will become effective?
I do not have the answer for timing offhand. I believe you're referring to the Idaho stop bill.
Correct, exactly.
To go through a stop sign.
Right.
If you could send me an email about it, I just put my contact info in the chat. I would be happy to get you more specific answers about the timeline for it.
I will do that. Now, you Declan.Falls at DC Council.us?
dfalls at dccouncil.gov.
.gov. Thank you. I'll do that after this meeting.
Ms. Mindy Reiser.
Yes, thank you. Always enjoy seeing what's going on and sometimes get involved in it. Declan, thanks for coming. I do support the free Metro bus opportunity, but tell us a little bit about how the financial implications of that are going to play out. Is it assumed that the overall tax revenue will make up the shortfall?
Ooh, great question. Again, I apologize. I do not have the answer offhand, but again, if you wouldn't mind emailing me, I'd be happy to talk with legislative staff in our office and I can follow up with an answer, as well as the next ANC meeting that I'm on. I'd be happy to share that information with the full ANC.
Declan, I'm sure that's been thought through. It would have to be. And I know in terms of Metro that there were problems in recruiting drivers. In fact, I've even seen ads for that. And so buses are often delayed. I mean, there are challenges, but it's clear there's some good thinking going on also.
Okay, Ms. Karen Caston.
Yes, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. I wonder if Declan, is that being pronounced right, Declan?
Yep, Declan.
Declan Falls, could you comment on the mayor's proposal on changing the structure of the DC Housing Authority Board? About Chair Mendelson withdrawing that from the agenda of that meeting?
Yes, so as I understand it, this was going to restructure the board into 7 members originally, and then some rewrites took it up to 9 members. I believe the council still had some questions and the votes weren't exactly there. So ultimately it was taken off the meeting last Tuesday. The chairman withdrew the legislation, but I believe his intention is to bring it back up at the next and final meeting, legislative meeting of this session. I'm not sure if that has changed. I know at the last meeting, he said he intended to bring it up before the end of the year. So I believe that is still currently the plan, is to work with council members to find some sort of consensus on it.
What's the date of this next meeting?
If you give me 1 second, I can make sure I have it right. It is, I believe, December 20th, that Tuesday.
Yep. The 27th, you mean, or the 20th?
I believe it's the 20th.
The 20th.
We'll double check that.
Next week, right?
That would be next week. Let me double check that. That might be the committee of the whole meeting.
Okay. Declan, are you able to check it while we're in this meeting or some other time?
I will ask another staff member right now and get an answer, and I'll stay on this meeting until I get an answer, and I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I see Christina just put that in the chat that it is the last legislative meeting. So that is next Tuesday, the 20th.
Okay, thank you. What time?
Noon, I believe. And that would be on the council's website, which is dccouncil.gov.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Declan. Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you. And please follow up the questions I couldn't answer tonight. Please follow up with an email and I'm happy to get back to you.
Yeah, and if you could just post your information again in the chat. Actually, if you can say your information verbally as well because this is a video that will be on YouTube.
Sure. My email is dfalls@dccouncil.gov and my office phone number is 202-724-8158.
Someone asked, is this the last legislative meeting along with the COW? Did you answer that?
I think that was in response to the last question that was asked.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. And then real quick, thank you, Declan. Thank you. Really quickly, introducing Courtney Carlson, who's going to be a commissioner next year. If you can just introduce yourself, Courtney, for 3F06.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Where I'm good at Zoom, but bad at Zoom on a phone, which is where unfortunately I find myself tonight. But I am a DC native and a 32nd and between Ellicott and Fessenden resident, and I'm really looking forward to representing the newly redrawn 3F06 in the coming years. I know a lot of the faces here from work I've done before. at Merch as an auction chair and a member of the board, and on Streets and Sidewalks. And I'm really hoping to focus on the Connecticut Avenue safety, pedestrian safety, buses. And I just looking forward to continuing to help this neighborhood be its best.
Thank you, Courtney. Thanks for joining, and thanks for introducing yourself. Look forward to working with you next year.
Thanks, Claudette. I really look forward to working with you too. Nice to meet you the other week.
Yep. Moving on to the so now we want to hear from Amy.
Commissioner David. Oh, I'm sorry. Also, Mitchell Bear is on the call as well too.
Mitch. Hey, Mitch, if you could give a quick introduction.
Sure, I will do that. I'm going to be the new commissioner from the 3F03 SMD. The issues that I'm going to be hopefully principally working on is the self-zone development that's happening in my backyard and the backyard of a number of other apartment buildings, and in the front yard of some people on Audubon. Also economic development within the ANC, and as with everyone else who borders on Connecticut Avenue, the DDOT Connecticut Avenue plan. And I'm looking forward to working with the old commissioners, Claudette and others, and the new commissioners this coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. And look forward to working with you as well next year. Now we'll hear from Amy Stressheim. Sorry, Amy, that I'm messing up your last name. But we'll hear from Amy Stress.
You did pretty good, and thank you, Stanwall and Ms. David, for allowing me a few minutes. As people know, there was a $10 million settlement between the OAG and the Darrow buildings. And we were hoping that that would mean that there would be changes for the better for the tenants, all tenants, from the settlement. Unfortunately, and the reason I pressed to have this tonight is because this goes into effect January 1st, before our next ANC meeting. I have a few questions. Why was Darrow allowed to cherry pick Borger to manage the Darrow buildings when Borger at the Brandywine and other places has some of the same problems and fights with property managers as we have? Second question is, will the $10 million settlement be used to improve our buildings? They eliminated our security guards here. That's happened at other Darrow buildings. Karen is on from Sedgwick, which is a Darrow building. I don't think Armand is on right now. She's at Park West. We made an agreement between the executive board of the Connecticut House Tenant Association, which I'm the president of, that we would continue the security guards until 30 days after the fobs were put on the front and back doors. Ann Sullivan agreed to that. And yet we do not have those fobs operational, but the security guards are gone. And this is a real problem for people who feel too scared to call the police. I understand that that things should be go to the police. But yesterday I reported a new neighbor placed here by the city for smoking in our non-smoking building. And Juan Prado, the property manager, talked to him. And then all afternoon, I heard him screaming and shouting, F you people, don't effing come to my door again. I'm going to effing do this to you. And there were threats posted on the trash rooms and different residents' doors, and saying, if you contact the police, this is what we're going to do to you. Yesterday, there was another altercation between a woman who is usually panhandling along in Albemarle Street between the along the car wash lines. And she came into the building, she lives here, and she asked another resident for money. And he said, I'm not going to give you money, talk to the front desk. And she verbally assaulted him because inside the lobby of the Connecticut House, because he wouldn't give her money. So we're in a quandary because we're told we should call the police. And yet we're also getting threats, what will happen to us if we do. Now, the other threat that came to me was that a mother was the police, somebody called the police on her. And after there was a lot of noise in the apartment, they were fearful. And she says that Darrow said that Amy told the police to come. I didn't call the police, but here, I don't know if this is true or not, but it makes us scared to call the police. And when I'm hearing somebody through my wall saying, F this for hours on end, and don't you effing come to my door again, I am scared. So last night I had to have somebody come help me walk with me with my dog for her last walk of the day. I don't want to be afraid to walk out my front door. So we would like to know that $10 million settlement is going to go to improving conditions here at the Darrow buildings. There's a letter that was sent to Connecticut House residents, and I believe it was sent to Sedgwick. Karen can add to that, that said that all of the same personnel are going to stay in place. We pay our rent to the same place. And so it's pretty much window dressing because nobody lost their jobs. And, you know, we don't know what to do. So I would, and it's very galling when I see on Nextdoor where it says, let all the affordable people, homeowners say, let all the affordable housing be in the apartment buildings. We don't want the trouble they're having. Well, for goodness sakes, that's just not right. We need to be one community here, not renters versus homeowners. We're all affected by this. So I would like to, and also the social services, we would like OAG to use some of that money to get the social services to the people who need them. And we also want to question as to whether people who are not able to live independently, why they're being placed here. This same woman who accosted somebody for not giving her money in the lobby here and who goes up and down the car wash line. She knocks on people's doors around 12:30 at night, even later, and rings their doorbell and asking for money. She was arrested once earlier this year, but we're scared, and we want to stay here. I've been here 30 years this month. And, you know, people say, Amy, you should leave. Why should I leave my home? I mean, I raised my daughter here. She went to Merch Deal in Wilson. So I would just like this to be on the ANC's radar. And I'd like a few answers to our questions about what the settlement will entail and why Borger was picked and what we do if we're too scared to call the police because of these threatening notes. Thank you.
Thank you. And we did get your email and forwarded it to the correct personnel and including NPD, and did get a response from NPD. Commissioner Wall.
One, again, Chair David, thank you for letting Ms. Strossheim speak. And Amy, very sorry that this is still happening, you know, within the building. And I'm quite certain this was not OAG's intent, you know, in reaching the settlement with Darrow to kind of get to a better place with both of those buildings. You know, as you're aware, and the tenant association's aware, we have indeed forwarded your questions from tonight, you know, on to OAG. And I would hope that, you know, the incoming commissioners can help continue to push for better conditions in these buildings for all residents. As well as I know that there's still some folks from Councilmember Chairman Mendelson's office still on the call. So if there's any insight, assistance you could provide in helping to get resolution, that would also be appreciated. But we do hear and understand this, and we do agree it's unacceptable. And I think that both the outgoing ANC and incoming ANC will be working to help resolve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Declan, is there anything, I'm sorry, Declan, are you still on? Is Declan still on? Does anyone see him?
I don't see Declan on the line.
Declan. Okay, he's not on the line. Okay, but we have, so we are waiting on a response from OAG. And, NPD did follow up. And we could reach out to NPD again.
MPD did come to our building to investigate who had put up the threatening notes. And according to Mr. Prado, they were not able to find out who was authoring them. But since those threatening notes were posted, people are not going, they are adamant that they're not going to call MPD because they fear for their safety.
Karen's got her hands up.
Thank you very much. I think one of the concerns is that OAG will not be able to react very quickly because of the change in leadership. I think often, when the leadership of an agency shifts, they're shifting priorities, different departments do different things maybe. And I think that could happen in this case. And so that would further delay the OAG from responding. And that's part of the reason for the urgency. And we know that the commissioners don't have the answers. We know you aren't the OAG, but we really appreciated the opportunity just to expand awareness among you who are representing us. We're your constituents. We wanted to expand your awareness of what's happening and of how frightening it is and how threatening it feels.
I'm going to go through two more comments and then, so I see Jason hand is raised.
Yes, Claudette, thank you for this. Just wanted to highlight that, it's easy for this to get lost because we're all, virtual and not living with each other and not having neighbors. But these concerns that Amy brings forward are very real. And it could be a matter of the next month that we have a meeting, that some of the people that live in Connecticut House will not be here, will not be living. So we hope that our concerns are not falling on deaf ears, that we do get some action and reciprocity is just from one neighbor to another. That's all I just want to say.
Yeah, and you have. So like I mentioned that we, not only are we working with you, so this is not the only avenue of us connecting you to DC government. Is happening. There's a lot of back channeling happening. So even as we speak. So right now we're giving you a moment to, this is now a recorded session, but there's a lot happening on the back end. And
on your part, Claudette, you're initiating, the ANC is initiating back channel activity.
Yeah, so Amy has been on those emails. Everybody here has not been on those, but Amy has been on those emails. So, but there is a lot of back channeling happening right now.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time, Claudette, and for everybody understanding the gravity of what we're dealing with and how scared we are. Thank you.
And with that said, I want to say Lieutenant Burdett Williams, NPD in general, have been very responsive, and Lieutenant Burdett Williams has been on our calls each month, giving us updates, responding to any questions, or, you know, even just via email tonight. Because of the Africa Summit, all the NPD officers have been called to cover that. And they're working 24-hour shifts. So she's not making it tonight, but as I said, she's responding to her emails right now. You know, there's back channeling happening right now. We'll just continue that conversation. I'll add, Amy, if you could forward those conversations to colleagues or constituents, whoever wants to know what's happening, if you could forward that to them so they know that things are happening on the back end.
Claudette, did you just say that Lieutenant Williams is not going to be here tonight because of some activity taking place right now related to what Amy was talking about?
No, not related to what she's talking about. There's an Africa Summit happening right now in DC, and the mayor has called all officers to work this whole week, and they're working 24-hour shifts. Otherwise, this is the first meeting that Lieutenant Williams has missed, and it's because of this event.
And there's no substitute, right? That's been scheduled.
Oh, everyone has been called. But there's back channeling happening right now. She's responding to emails, but she just cannot make it on this call right now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mehta.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks so much for sharing the current state of life, of quality of life in these buildings, and the truly negative and scary impact. I wrote down the things that you highlighted, and I would just like to point out for everybody that two of the three things that Amy listed are just purely factual matters. They are not problem-solving issues, and they are not questions that are vague or unclear. They are factual matters related to the Darrow settlement between OAG and Darrow. So I think that at a minimum, we ought to, I'm not promising to, Amy, because I don't know what kind of barriers, bureaucratic or otherwise, stand in the way, but certainly want to state publicly that we, the ANC, will make an effort to get responses to your first two questions, which seem frankly a little bit more tangible and attainable than what the larger, what I think is a much more structural and complex problem around the dynamic in these buildings. And those two things are, why did Darrow get, or how or why did Darrow get to pick Borger? And the second one is, what is happening with that $10 million settlement? Those two things should be a matter of public record. If they're not, and certainly should be answerable. So we will look into those two factual things. The other one, as I said, is a much larger, more complex issue. And I would be lying if I said publicly that we can tackle those as an ANC. It requires a lot more powers to bring, to come together and to solve a much more complex issue than is doable by any ANC in the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before I move on, because we got to move on with the agenda, but all of those questions are in an email that Amy sent earlier that went to OAG earlier tonight. So as I said, Amy is repeating what we've been discussing via email. And it has already, all of those questions have gone to OAG already, and NPD is on that email as well. So those answers will, the responses to those questions will be made. Thank you. So moving on to the next item on the agenda is DC Water. DC Water, are you on? Well, I know you're on, but you can share your screen.
Hi.
Okay.
Good evening. Who do we have from DC Water tonight?
The usual suspects, Commissioner. Jarrell's gonna pull up the slides. And I am going to start off by addressing some of the questions that you had, Commissioner, up front. And then Jarrell's gonna jump back to our normal monthly update. So we wanna talk about a few of the questions that we got. One was, are there any other residents connected on the sewer lateral within the area that we'll be doing the rehabilitation? And so the answer to the question is no. They're the 11 customers that we have pointed out initially that are connected, and that's the customers on Audubon Terrace. That's 2991, the 2915, the 2901, the 2899, the 2891, the 2883, the 2877, the 2871 Audubon Terrace, and also the 3005, 3003, and 3001. So those customers are the 11 that are connected to the sewer lateral. As we mentioned in I think the last meeting or the one before the last meeting, we will be doing some special outreach to those customers, i.e. some door-to-door outreach, but there are no other customers connected on that sewer lateral. So that's
Sorry, Amit. Thank you.
Huh?
That's helpful. Can we pause there for 1 second
Sure.
before you move on to the next? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'd like to address it while this is a live issue.
Sure.
So just so we understand, and I'll ask others to chime in at this point, just in case I'm missing something. These 11 customers are the customers who are connected to the sewer lateral the sewer line that is being rehabilitated as part of the Stokestone project.
Yes.
Okay, so are there other customers connected to other lines that are either being rehabilitated or not being rehabilitated?
So what I have been told is that there are no other laterals connected to the sewer lines being rehabilitated. I don't know if Peter wants to jump in with anything additional, but that's the information that I have been provided. It's just these 11 identified properties.
Yeah, Emmanuel, you are correct. Most of the pipe that's going to be rehabilitated are inside the park. These 11 are the only pipe that is going to be rehabilitated.
Okay, sorry, that's not exactly what I was asking. Let me try to be a little bit clearer.
Okay.
Are there pipes, whether they're inside or outside the park? I don't really draw that distinction because I don't think it's a terribly relevant distinction. Are there any other sewer lines that are part of this project and therefore could have emissions into connected laterals, could have emissions into the connected laterals? Whether or not those pipes are being rehabilitated is not the question. The question is whether there is another way for emissions to escape into laterals that are connected to soapstone.
The answer is no. This is the only pipe. The answer is no.
Okay, the answer is no. These are the only 11. And so what, the obvious question, for example, to me is Park Van Ness. That's a huge apartment building that is directly parallel to soapstone. What is Park Van Ness connected to, if not the pipes in soapstone? That's just one example of one that makes me wonder if it's not Park Van Ness, where are they connected to if they're not connected to these?
Commissioner, we can provide you a map. There's a lot of pipes, sewer pipe. That's why it's a little bit confusing. We will provide you a map. We will give it to Emmanuel to actually show you. Jerome, can you pull up that map with the sewer line in your presentation, in your updates? This is not a good one. I'm sorry. We will provide. This is not a true. We will
Peter,
provide
do you mind
you
if
No, actually, this is the exact one that you should be showing, because it's showing a connection from Park, Connecticut, I guess, to the main line that you're going to be doing something with. And we know that that's not the only one on there, that the Park, Connecticut line is also connected to Park Van Ness. So I'm not quite sure how you can say that there aren't any other potential buildings that are going to not be affected by this relining. What am I not seeing here, guys?
So if I can jump in just for a second, it's been a couple months since I've spoken up. So hi everybody. What this is a schematic, and what this schematic isn't showing is the manholes. So all of the lines that are being lined have for Park Van Ness, Park Connecticut, and the other buildings other than the 11, there's basically between that building and the lines being lined, there's a manhole in between. And that manhole is a point that would have that open, it's an air break, basically. It's a disconnect between any air that would connect the sewer to the building. So the 11 homes on Audubon Terrace, the line leaving from that house connects directly into the line where that liner is going to be installed and cut open. But every other resident in the entire area has a manhole that's breaking that gap.
So what are you going to have at that?
Sorry, excuse me, Mitchell. So, Will, what you're really saying then is all of homes and the buildings that Mitchell just referenced, like Park Van Ness, Park Connecticut, they're all directly connected. The only difference is that the homes don't have a manhole as like a release, or some place for the air to release into in between the line and the building, but these buildings do.
I wouldn't say direct, because that line that the building touches, when we talk about a sewer line, we usually talk about manhole to manhole, and the building isn't connected to that line that's being lined, that's having the CIPP installed. I mean, in a big picture, everything's connected because it's all got blue plains downstream, right? I mean, the entire sewer shed, it drains into this area. So to a certain degree, kind of everything is connected. These buildings, though, have that air break, that air gap, because of that manhole that separates it from the CIPP work that's being done.
And presumably you believe that air break is the reason why folks in the buildings are differently situated. Correct. In terms of emissions or any other impact related to the work that's taking place, versus the folks who don't have that manhole between the sewer connection and their home.
That's exactly correct. And in the air quality monitoring plan, the AQMP that we're going back and forth with DOEE on, that you should have received the most recent draft version. In that document, there's I believe 4 different versions that account for all the different possible pathways for air to get from the CIPP to any given upstream upwind place, and that manhole break is what separates for the majority of residents in the area.
Okay, so Will, you're saying that there's going to be will there be a plug between?
Yes.
Okay, so there will be a plug there, and so there will be monitoring at the manhole cover?
That's correct. That's 100% correct, yeah. And that's all detailed in the AQMP, in the air quality monitoring plan.
Right, and we got a revised one today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Will, I'm wondering, hi, it's Marjorie. I'm wondering why you, both in writing and verbally, said that you would verify all of this with a CCTV once the boiler permit has been approved. You said you needed to verify this. But now it seems as though you're saying that you're absolutely sure of it. Is this based on the surveillance that you did in 2011 for the previous report?
Every project starts out with a design that's based on available information. And every project at the beginning of the construction phase has a verification of everything that's in the field. This sewer line is very well documented, so we're very confident that everything is going to mesh up with our records because we've run cameras through it all recently. But just as a matter of standard protocol, our contractor, Kevin, and the team are going to run those cameras through just to, it's a standard matter of protocol for all construction projects, just to double check the existing conditions. And in this case, it's actually more of a quadruple check.
Okay, and do you know how the area between Park Van Ness and Park Connecticut connect into the sewers in the park? Because I think that was that also done, surveyed with CCTV?
I'll have to defer to Peter or Barack. I believe it was. My recollection, I mean, there's a line that runs, I believe there's in that alleyway that kind of goes down in between the two buildings. Right. I believe there's a manhole in the curb cut, kind of about in the sidewalk, and it flows down from there. And then there's another one at the end of the alleyway. There's like a concrete wall with a chain link fence above it. I believe there's one right on the top of that, and then there's another one on the downstream side. There's a pretty big drop right there, and it's basically just flowing down through those three. And then there's another manhole down at the connection with the main sewer. Okay. I am going a little bit off of memory though.
But
Peter,
that is
Barack,
not part of this project in any case. Is that correct?
Say that again.
That portion is not part of this project. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is part of the project. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Will, if it's part of the project, does that mean that entire length of pipe or sewer line is going to be relined as well? And if so, you'll keep using plugs the closer and closer you get to the buildings themselves to ensure that the emissions and the water, whatever it is, won't go beyond into the buildings?
The second half of that is 100% true. There'll always be a plug, and it's that plug is always going to be directly upstream of where the work is happening. The first half of that, I seem to recall that there is, and Peter or Barack, if you can chime in on the specifics of it, I seem to recall that there is one section that already has a lining. I'm not, I don't remember exactly where it is, if it's on that line or adjacent.
Hi, well, this is Brock. Good evening, everyone. Yes, there's a portion that was already lined a few years back. And regarding the lateral sewer connections, I'd like to add, DC Water has selected to install additional engineering controls at these locations to prevent the migration of gases into properties. An engineered plug is going to be installed in each lateral sewer connection that is directly tied to residential properties. Schematic of this lateral connections and plugs can be found in AQMP. Air quality monitoring for the VOCs will be performed on the upstream side of the plug at the cleanout. This is to evaluate the effectiveness of the plug. So this all this information can be found in AQMP.
Okay, can I just have one more question?
Sure.
Would you please at some point give me a tour of where all these manhole covers and all these ventings and where all the monitoring will happen for that particular pipe, so I can tell the people on both Park Van Ness side and Park Connecticut side and be aware of what that is?
Absolutely. Emmanuel, since Mitch is an incoming commissioner, do you want to coordinate that, or do you want Peter to coordinate that directly?
it doesn't matter. I have Peter's.
We internally, we tend to, for ANC commissioners specifically, Emmanuel tends to be on point, but Peter's on point for construction. So I just want to make sure we're coordinated on the DC water side so we don't lose track of that.
Yeah, I can be the point of contact. That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
So should we go on? It looks like you have a slide up on the mitigation.
Sure.
And
So
I think people have
yes.
probably had a chance to read it, but my general question around this slide is, do these measures relate specifically to the 11 homes on
Yes,
Audubon, or more broadly?
Yeah, so there's two things. So this slide addresses that some of the practical measures. And then I know in an email that we were exchanging earlier, talking about the minimizing the water usage, that as well pertains to those customers doing the operations on the CIPP. So this slide will be relevant to that. I know the email that we had discussed earlier, minimizing that water usage, doing those CIPP operations. On the days of those operations between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., it means to not perform the following, and that's washing clothes or dishes, taking showers or baths, and do not flush toilets. So all of these kinds of things are just mitigation measures and just tips to follow. I know in responding to your questions, we got a couple additional questions or concerns from one of the customers about one, observing religious holidays and family gatherings, doing the CIPP portion of the work. I can definitely guarantee that for all of our construction projects, we do observe holidays and things like that. We understand that, folks are having family over, services are needed in the home, water and sewer services. So we certainly, within our schedule, we build that flexibility to recognize and understand those kinds of needs. The other concern was providing at least 14 days notice, as opposed to our 7-day notice. So our normal policy is to provide 7-day notice whenever we're going to be doing something that impacts sewer services, but understanding the sensitivity, of this project, we're actually going to amend that policy again. And so we will be providing actually 3 phases of notice before, as we're doing the CIPP work: a 14-day notice, a 7-day notice, and a 5-day notice. So there'll be 3 phases of the notice before we do the CIPP that will impact those customers.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Appreciate that. What is the current best estimate of the for the start of CIPP?
Perfect segue. So we're going to take it back. Jarrell's going to take it over now and kind of go over just the general sort of project update.
Okay, I'll just start from the top and we'll get here pretty quickly. This was just a background. I think we're all familiar with this information, the purpose of the project as well. Here's just a quick status update of the construction. Right now at Site 1, that's the area behind Park Van Ness. It's currently 55% complete. As you all are aware, the contractor demobilized, and we anticipate returning and working there following at the beginning of the year with the projected completion late February. There are still some trees remaining to be removed. We are working with the designers there to see if we could minimize as many trees that come from Site 1 as possible. So that's still ongoing. Site 1, we're still working on the stabilized construction entrance. The contractor's been making improvements there. As it relates to the boiler permit, which you all know is holding up some of the CIPP work to begin. That's still pending from DOEE. as well as the AQMP, the air quality monitoring plan. And we still have the bypass pumping in operation in the park at this time. And crews will be out at following the top of the year to do some manhole rehabilitation and continue with the inspections. Just a list of a few activities completed in the recent months was the reconstruction of outfall F-117. We CCTV'd section 1, which includes sites 4, 5, and 6. The public review period of the boiler permit has been completed, and we've removed 5 trees from site 1.
I'm sorry, before we switch slides, so is it, I think the answer to my question is that you don't have a very good sense of when CIPP will actually start because the boiler permit is still pending. Is that the answer to the question?
Yes, we have a schedule. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, that's correct. We are anticipating that we're probably gonna get it by, hopefully by January, before the end of January. That's what we're hoping for.
So the concern that I'm seeing in all these emails from constituents around CIPP work taking place during the holidays, that sounds to me like a moot point, right? That's not going to be an issue because if the earliest you're going to get that boiler permit is January, you're not going to start that work in December.
No, we will. The way at the current, no, we probably won't be able to start because we have to give notices. We have to order the liner. Yeah, you are correct.
Okay, yeah, because I'm seeing the dark blue boxes don't be in until mid-January at the earliest in your chart on the
yeah, that's
screen
correct.
now. Okay, great. Thank you. That clarifies the question. Thank you.
Okay.
So we've got about 10 more minutes.
Okay. Okay, so those were the activities. As you know, the construction hours are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Some other upcoming activities for post-January would be to continuing the grading work near site 1 and the outfall. Also bypass pumping at sites 4, 5, and 6. Sorry about that. Traffic control at Broad Branch near the park entrance. That'll come in place for some of the CIPP activities that you've seen listed on the schedule. Also, potential for CIPP work to begin at site 6. That'll be the first site. Anticipate mid-January. And like we discussed, that's pending the boiler permit from DOEE. It was a look at the schedule, which we've discussed. Just some other activities that may have some noise associated with it when our contractors return to work. We'll continue heavy rock delivery and hauling from the site. Also, the bypass pumping will continue through late February of next year. And the sewer bypass pumping will continue from sites 4, 5, and 6. And you can see those identified on the map below. And the green dashes on the map represent the portions of the pipe that has been CCTV to date. Just to look at the traffic impacts, some traffic control measures that we discussed that'll be in place. So on Albemarle Street, you may see some traffic control set up for the stabilized construction entrance, and as well on Broad Branch for the CIPP work. And those lane closures on public space will only be in place from 9:30 a.m. through 3:30 p.m. And that'll continue through late February 2023. These are just some update photos of some of the sites. Here's the outfall. Site 4, some of the stairs are in and the rock walls. That's showing the bypass line. So updated tree chart, not much has changed since we last met. And I know the time is limited. And here is a contact page. Feel free to reach out with any issues or concerns.
So I would thank you for that, Jarrell. I would like to, Marjorie Scher had sent me a couple of questions, which frankly I didn't fully understand because she is more versed in this project than I am. So Marjorie, if I could, would you please restate the question to the experts here regarding, odor elimination and shutdown issues?
Sure. Hi, experts. So one question was in the deficiency report in response to your testing and monitoring plan from ACOM. Professor Welton and I wrote that we were concerned about the informing and communicating with the community and that halting operations appeared to be inadequate. The report responded, you said, due to the nature of the process, shutdown of the process has the potential to prolong admissions, and it's generally not the best practice to alleviate air emissions concerns. Could you please explain that? That seems to be a very important point, since we are concerned with shutdown if emissions exceed certain levels.
It basically, the short version of it is during the curing process, the resin starts in a liquid form and then it's solidified through the curing process, and it off gases while it's in that liquid form. So really what we're trying to do is get it to a solid state as quickly as possible, and stopping the curing process basically allows it to stay in that liquid form. It basically just stays in that liquid form, so it could continue to off gas.
So what you're talking about is during the liquid form, that process, that part of the process. You're not talking about in general that shutdown is unwise to do.
Oh,
That's what it sounded like.
Kevin, I'll ask you to fill in a little bit on that. The only point in time when there's really something to, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only point in time where there's really anything to shut down is when you're applying that heat, which is while the resin is solidifying, basically. That would be the only time that there's really anything that would be kind of able to be shut down, right?
Well, my understanding
That's
is,
correct.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing. Will, you're correct in the statement.
Okay, I have a different understanding. My understanding is that emissions can occur even when the refrigerator truck is open, for example, that chemicals can be emitted, harmful chemicals can be emitted at different intervals.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking specific to that curing process. You're right. In the beginning, what the literature actually shows us is that the highest spike is actually right at the opening of the refrigerator truck when it's open, and that's why the controls are specifically built around the controls that we're proposing are specifically targeting that area in what we're calling an exclusion zone.
Okay, so I understand you to say that if the emissions exceed what is agreed upon with DOEE, that there will be shutdown. You're hesitant to shut down the process while the resin is still in a liquid form and it hasn't hardened into the plastic.
Right. Once the heat has applied, the best way to, once the heat is started, the best way to limit any additional emission would be to actually continue the curing process.
And what about capturing, containment and capturing?
Well, so that's what the monitoring is there for, to determine where any of those constituents would actually be anyway.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And then in terms of odor, that came up recently with Audubon, with the bypass work that you were doing. Is this work going to take care of the foul odors that occur in Soapstone? Will this sewer project take care of that?
You know, this is a point of a little bit of debate in the industry. It does things that will help. Will it eliminate? We can't guarantee that it's going to eliminate. The manholes will be sealed, which will help. The pipe will be smoother, which will help. It'll be a little bit smaller in diameter, which increases the velocity, which will help. But to go so far as to say eliminate, we just can't say that. We can't guarantee that. But much of what's happening will help. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because your customers were confused about that. So I just wanted to clarify that.
And it's also worth noting in a lot of stream beds like this, where you have standing water and ponding water, there is some similarity to the odor from the sewer flows and the odor from the stream itself. And because of the stream work we're doing, those odors should be again helped as well. So we're hopeful, but it's hard to say more than that definitively.
Okay, and I know we're short on time. Where are you in the process with DOEE on the testing and monitoring plan? Are they looking at it now?
Barack, do you want to give the latest on that? Or Peter?
Sure, I can do that. So I sent it to Stephen Hours at DOEE last week, and I'm still waiting to hear back from him. So I don't have any updates right now.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. We are at time. I actually let you go a bit over. That was almost like 30 minutes. So thank you so much. DC Water, I will see you next year. Have a wonderful holiday and New Year.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy
and see you next
holidays.
year.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you all for joining the meeting tonight with your with follow-up on today's questions on the presentation. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, we're going on to the items that we will vote on. And James, I think you're taking the lead on the Barren Wines.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Commissioner David. So we have a ABRA application for Barren Wines. It is we actually have Kristen Newby on the call. She's associate attorney. So I will let you take over from here.
Perfect. Thank you, James. It's nice to meet you and everybody, and thank you all for your time and consideration here. My client is the applicant, and they have applied for an internet-only retailer license at a facility known as Domain Wine Storage on Connecticut Avenue. They will be running a typical internet business, meaning no public storefront, no public access. The premises, the to be licensed premises, my client specific premises, will be closed to the public. So in short, there will be no disturbance to the community. And these operations are standard for Domain, the facility. In fact, there are several other licensees that are internet-only retailers already located at Domain. My client has not applied for a stipulated license. So this is just classic, regular internet retailer license. And yeah, you said I had 2 minutes, but that's really kind of all I have to present on the business operations front. I do have a question though, and I just feel like I need to ask, doing due diligence for my client. I'm super curious, since Domain has a lot of other licensees that are already doing what my client seeks to do at that facility. I'm curious if everybody else has a settlement agreement in place, not because I want to make a stink for any of the other licensees, of course, but if we enter this, by entering a voluntary settlement agreement with y'all, it puts into it effectively could kind of paint my client into a corner potentially uniquely from other licensees, other, folks who are located at Domain. And I'm not sure that that's the best thing for my client and their relationship with Domain, in their, functioning like the other licensees in a way that's acceptable for y'all. So curious about that. If you could shed some light on that, that would be great.
And I'm happy to do so. And the short answer is yes. In fact, when you got the settlement agreement, you noticed it was a form basically that you just sort of filled out. And we actually have two versions of that because of Domain, we actually have many internet-only liquor licenses. And so typically, most places have regular tavern licenses, regular liquor licenses for retail establishments or restaurants. And we have a settlement agreement for that, but we also created a template just for internet licensees because of Domain. We've had so many come through in the last few years that it just became easier for us to just put together a template and just fill in the blanks. So yes, everyone has one.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's certainly not a deal breaker. I just wanted to check and make sure I wasn't painting my client into a corner in any way. But yeah, if anybody has any questions about my client's business or anything like that, I'm happy to answer.
Normally from here, we'll get questions from commissioners and then we'll get questions from the public. Do we have any questions from the commissioners?
What is the product line? Is it just wine?
So they have applied for a Class A, which is beer, wine, and spirits. But yes, I think that was just kind of the default. Yes, they're practically speaking, they're just wine, predominantly from Old World, some European wine, some pretty notable regions and estates. So yeah, if you're a wino, I'd definitely check out their portfolio.
I will clarify to folks that the address for like the facility is on 4221 Connecticut Avenue. I mean, it's a closed facility, but just to let people know like where it actually is in Venice itself, just to clarify.
I have one quick question, if I may, Chair David. The facility that you're operating, what is the traffic impact? Like, are you doing is it like a Drizzly type service where it's on-demand deliveries, or how's that work?
My client specifically, their operation.
Correct. Yeah.
So they would be like the other internet retailer only licensees currently at Domain. Essentially, they only work with private collectors. So they have, a select group of private wine buyers that, to be, totally frank, that it's the bottles of wine that are way above my pay grade, hundreds and thousands of dollars for us. So it's a very, they're just conducting their business through the internet and then delivering to those customers.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Any questions from the community?
And just to be clear, you've executed the settlement agreement at this, but we have that returned to us, right?
So I sent James a draft. We don't have the license issued yet, so I can't fill in the license number, that detail. But I think, James, you mentioned something that we could go ahead and get signatures and fill that in later, or what's the next best step? Happy to do what's best.
Actually, if you got the placard, I think the number on the placard would be your license number. So actually that number, because I know you've got the placard notice because we got the placard notice. So I think there is a number on the placard that actually would be your license. So the application number, whatever they call it. So you can just write that in or fill that in. So that handles that.
Okay, perfect.
But if we have it, then yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you.
Any questions from the community? Can I get a motion to vote on the permit for Beer and Wines?
I motion to approve the permits on beer and wines.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Newby.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda is the UDC court lights resolution. I will try to bring that one up. And we still have Juanita on the line.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. So I will start with just updating or reminding the community of why we're here, if that's okay, Commissioner David.
Yes.
The university was asked by the ANC to amend our campus master plan so that the tennis courts lights are usable after what is currently stated in the campus master plan, which I believe is dusk. We have submitted an amendment to the zoning committee asking that the lights be able to be turned on until 8 p.m. 8 p.m. is our capacity to man the courts and to have someone there to shut them down at the end of the day. In the draft resolution that was sent, I have made some corrections to it, or not corrections, but some, yeah, I guess you can say
some adjustments.
Some adjustments that however you want to handle this, Commissioner David, if you want to go from line by line, it's however you'd like to go through it, but they're very small changes.
Yeah, let's just go through what the whereas where you've made adjustments. So you've made adjustments as whereas this weekday window of time, while generous, is difficult and practical for working families who would benefit from after work hour time, 6 p.m. You changed it to 8 p.m. It was formerly 10 p.m. or 11 p.m.
Correct. 8 p.m. is the time that we have on our application, and that is the max time that we are able to staff the courts. So that is the max time that we're asking for.
And then you added the university is only requesting lights to be made available until 8 p.m. daily.
That was just a note to the commissioners.
Okay.
As to why.
Okay.
Yeah, that part can be taken out. And then the next whereas, I struck out the public. Our tennis courts are not public. They are university tennis courts for our NCAA tennis teams. They are not DC Recreations tennis courts. So that correction was made for that particular whereas. Moving down, just a change from councilwoman to council member. That next one, we struck out the entire thing. The district, as a district agency, we do not know if we qualify for that particular grant. So we don't want that to be reflected in this resolution.
Okay.
And
so
then
you remove that full whereas. Okay.
And then the next one is just reiterating the 8 p.m. daily, striking out everything else. And also, I'm not sure what the Phoenix Club is, but it doesn't exist. And then the next one would be striking out all of that language as well. And that note is just, we have repeatedly emphasized to the community that we would not be pursuing or installing electronic access. And also that, you know, we've talked about these concerns with Chairman Mendelson, with Councilmember Che. Everyone has understood our position on this or on those specific items. And then moving through, the next one is just striking out all of the language, see above for comments. And then the last one is that as written currently, the university could not agree to this resolution.
And that's just your note.
That's
Okay.
just
Okay, and so you're saying basically if we made the adjustments with the time and some of the language, because you said the Phoenix Club doesn't exist, like there's some whereases that you remove, then you agree to it.
correct.
Any questions from the commissioners?
So just to clarify, I'm trying to read over myself. It sounds like to me like the big edits is that it's from 6 to 10 and 6 to 8 daily. And then the idea of like security cameras will not be a thing. Is that correct?
Correct. That was correct. That was never something that we agreed to do. It was talked about on multiple occasions, but that's something that we never said that we would be looking into.
And then just to clarify, they currently end at 6 p.m., right?
It's currently at dusk, so whatever time dusk starts.
Okay.
Any more questions from the commissioner?
Juanita, this is Deepa. Just so I understand, so UDC is saying we can go to 8 p.m., forget about the dusk and the light thing. We can go to 8 p.m., but we can't go to 11 p.m. And that 8 p.m. represents an extension from what the current state of affairs is, because right now you guys shut them down at when you lose daylight. Is that a fair? I'm asking if that's a fair summary.
No, that is, and that was not something that the university put into our campus master plan. That is something that the zoning commission put into our campus master plan. So we are asking for, at the request of the ANC, we're asking for an amendment, but to a time that works for us, which is 8 p.m.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners? I almost feel like we need to clean this up before we vote on this.
Well, Commissioner David, excuse me, shouldn't we ask whether there are folks in the community who have?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not
okay.
saying we vote now. No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm just saying out loud, and just for your input, what you think the next move should be. But are there any questions from the community on this resolution? No.
Juanita, if I may ask you a question, is this resolution necessary for UDC to extend the court time usage to 8 p.m.? Or can you just, I'm just trying to figure out what the point of this resolution is at this point. If UDC is saying we can't extend the court time beyond 8 p.m. and at least as of today, that is what it is, then what is the point of this resolution?
The only reason that the university is asking for the adjustment is because the ANC asked us to have the lights on further. We currently have no need for the lights to be on past what we already have approved in our campus master plan. This was simply the university, wanting to support the community and their request to have the lights on after hours.
So you need this resolution to support that request. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. We would.
Okay, got it.
Otherwise, the zoning commission we wouldn't be asking the zoning commission to do this if we hadn't received the request from the ANC.
Understood. And Chair David, does it make sense? I don't think that this forum is really sort of the right place to wordsmith the resolution. And I guess the question is, from a process perspective, can we vote on the substance of it and deal with the wordsmithing afterward and still have the vote be valid?
Well, I'm wondering if we could vote on it with changes. So if you all disagree with if you agree to any of the changes or disagree, now will be the time to discuss that.
Well, yes, but also, you know, this is a Word document with track changes on. If we were to like accept all the changes, or even just view it without the changes, that's an option in the view menu, just to like view. Let's see, I think you have to go to the review yeah. And there's a way to review with like no markup. You know, you can see, and so you can accept changes. Well, it looks like there's still some stuff in there, maybe because someone just changed font, but we can accept the changes, and
yeah, I mean, we can accept the changes. So the question is, do you accept the changes? Because we can vote on this document with the changes. And on just the back end, I just clean it up with the changes, but you just have to agree on the changes. Does that make sense?
yeah, I mean,
I'm not clear on who you're saying should agree to the changes, Chair David. I don't understand if
Oh,
you're speaking to
us.
Juanita, or you're talking to the commissioners, or you're
Oh,
talking
the
to community
commissioners,
members.
the commissioners agreed to the changes. Juanita made the change.
Right. So I mean, just to be
as-
clear, I'm going to abstain from voting on this because I'm not comfortable just reading this on a screen in the middle of a meeting. So I will.
Oh, no, it was sent to everyone earlier. So, okay. I mean, it was sent to everyone. So this is not the first time.
Yeah, I know it was sent to everybody, but we
Okay.
did not have the benefit of the background and discussion that Juanita gave us today. And from what I understand, Commissioner Christille is the primary drafter of this, and he's not here today. So from my perspective, just me personally, I'm not comfortable voting. I'm personally not going to vote on this. So you are welcome to bring it to a vote, but I will not vote on this today because the primary drafter is neither here, nor
Okay.
have we had a chance to really think this through in connection with Juanita's comments today. In principle, I don't have an issue with it. And that's why I was suggesting that we vote on the principal terms of it, but not necessarily this exact language. But if we want to vote on this exact language, I will abstain.
And what you're saying makes sense because you weren't on the meeting last month. So, because we discussed this last month, and it was open for review all this time. And so, I mean, it's gone through the regular process that we do with our resolutions, knowing that David would not be on the call today. He still wanted us to pass it, which is why it's on the agenda, because he still wanted us because there's this resolution and there's the Hearst Park resolution that he still wanted us to go through, even though he wasn't going to be on the call. Any other questions from Commissioner?
Yeah, Commissioner Appa has her hand up, I believe.
Commissioner Alvin and Commissioner Tenderi.
Yeah, just a quick question. Definitely understanding the comments that you made, and it's been circulated. Is this urgent? Like, if this is urgent today because it has to go to the zoning board, then I think, for approval or whatnot, then I think, great. I think we should move forward and vote on it. But if it's not urgent, then, if we all just take a minute, by take a minute, I mean, like, read the final draft, and then the new incoming commissioners can vote on it next month. I still feel like that would be sufficient because the ultimate terms of this have not changed in terms of the hours have changed, but if it's not urgent, I don't know if we need to bring it to a vote today. That's just my comment.
I will defer to our General Counsel, Avis Russell, if she can answer that question.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity. We have been informed that this is scheduled for the 12th of January.
Okay.
And I do not
Our
know
next meeting is January 17th. So So we'll need to vote on this tonight.
Okay, then that answers my question.
Okay. And what is scheduled for the 12th? I'm not clear on what it is.
A hearing on the modification.
Ah, okay. Okay, well then it does need to be voted on tonight.
Yes, and may I speak, Chair David?
Yes, hi, Evan.
Hi, Evan Pritchard. I'm a UDC zoning attorney and have been working with Juanita and Avis on this. And as Avis stated, the zoning commission hearing is scheduled for the 12th. And for what it's worth, I think Commissioner Mehta's suggestion about voting on the principle of the key facts were correctly identified earlier. Where the main things are talking about the time going no later than 8 p.m. and some of the other comments about having the lock the entry mechanism and the cameras and stuff. That's really the crux of this. I was just going to offer that often when we go before the zoning commission, we obviously want to have the applicable ANC support, but we do see sometimes less complicated documents than this, just a letter or even an email saying, this was discussed by the ANC at this meeting and we agree and support the application as stated by the applicant. So I don't know if that makes your jobs easier, but certainly suggests that Commissioner Mehta's approach is a good one, that you just vote on whether you agree with the spirit of what Juanita's outlined here. And then you guys can doctor the final document that you want to send to the zoning commission without having a having a ticking clock over your head.
Yeah, but I mean, the only issues, I mean, we've had this resolution. It's gone through the regular process as all other resolutions. So this is what we got. And so, I mean, it looks like we'd be voting on it as approved by UDC with all the changes that UDC made.
Chair David, I think to me, it's like, I'm also a little concerned. I mean, so like in principle, like I'm cool with it. Like I definitely agree, but like, I think just to me, like the formatting is just kind of throwing me off a little bit. Like there's all the crosses and like, that's not normally how like we like present it to like the public as well too. And like, I understand you're saying it's like a document, but like, we can talk as like a group completely of like the changes specifically made to like 8 p.m. and like from Juanita herself. So like, part of me is like, if we can maybe table it in a way to, there's also the option where like, I'll be the commissioner for the UDC next month. And so like, I can always write like a letter of support for the tennis courts as well, based on the changes here. In case like we can't really properly put it tonight though, because like to me, like the changes themselves and like the cross thing and like just the visual part to me is kind of throwing me off right now.
So you're saying you want to table this and just do a letter of support? Juanita, will that work if you just had a letter of support?
Yes. Also, if it's helpful, I can send this back with just the changes and take all of the track changes and the comments out.
Because I mean, basically what we're doing is just not even using this resolution right now is seems to be the conversation, to not even consider the resolution and just do a letter of support instead from the commissioner for your SMD in 2023.
I'll defer to Evan on that, but I believe that should be fine.
Yeah, I agree. A letter would be fine.
And should that letter come from the individual commissioner, or do you want a letter from the commission as a whole?
I think the zoning commission is flexible on that. Typically, it comes from the from the chair, or at least the chair is copied on it. But I don't know that that's certainly not a requirement. one way or the other. So we would be happy to have the support of the ANC in whatever form it takes. I think the main point is that the zoning commission just wants to know that you guys were consulted and you don't object to what the applicant is proposing.
All right, so just based on feedback from commissioners, we will table this. We will table this resolution and just do a letter of support from Commissioner James Tanderick in 2023 in support of, because the only real change is the time limit.
So how about we do it this way to give it some force? I make a motion that ANC3F supports UDC's application before the zoning commission regarding the change of hours for the tennis courts.
But for 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? And the motion passes.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
So now, Claudette, you can just quickly, Claudette and James, you can quickly just write a letter and say that this was voted upon, in a meeting with a quorum present, with our standard language about voted, passed, quorum present, properly noticed, yada, yada, yada. And so it has the full weight of the commission.
Okay.
Nice and simple.
All right. Thank you
very
everyone.
much.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is the Days Inn redevelopment resolution. And that was led by Commissioner Stan Wall. And do you want to share your screen?
Yeah. So fairly quickly on this item, we had introduced this resolution originally in October in support of at the time Gyre Lunch Companies had this site under contract and they're planning a redevelopment that would bring over 300 units of housing to Van Ness. They ultimately fell out of contract on that property, so it is once again up for sale. But this resolution is meant to continue to show our support for future developers who might be the next contract buyer. The resolution was originally posted in October, posted once again in November, reflecting the changes to essentially remove Gyre Lunch and all references to that company and make it more of a generic resolution of support. So this again was posted on our site. The changes from October are right here. That essentially again, instead of calling out that developer, just mention that the site was under contract and it's now expired. It's going to be marketed again, reinforcing our support for a mix of market rate and affordable units that create broad opportunities for residents in terms of incomes and that serve our community. And then again, reinforcing our support for these additional units and ground floor retail. At the time, the developer was looking for the ability for temporary vacation of the alley, which essentially means closing the alley temporarily while they construct the building and then restoring alley access afterwards. So this is meant to show that we continue to support this proposed redevelopment and ultimately to help signal to future purchasers that the ANC does support this moving forward. This doesn't mean that we approve any details of the development, and at some point it will have to come back to the next ANC to actually review any proposed plan unit development or any zoning relief. But this is just meant to signal purchasers who are contemplating making an offer that there is community support for the effort. So with that, we'll open up to any questions from commissioners or community.
Any questions from commissioners?
I would say, Stan, if you scroll down where you had, it's being it's being marketed. Yeah. So the site will be marketed to new developers. I would say, and it is expected that the site will be marketed to developers. Just because we have no guarantee that it is at this point. So I
It
would say,
is actually currently being marketed right now, so, but I can,
my sources tell me otherwise. So
okay.
that's why I leave it flexible.
Okay.
Just so, you know.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from commissioners? Any questions from the community?
I see a question from Ms. Kraft. Hi, Barbara.
Yes.
Hi, Commissioners. Does this resolution leave open the possibility that the city might want to acquire the property? Remember, there was that question that arose with the Wardman Hotel property.
This does not speak to that whatsoever. It merely suggests, having the property redeveloped and the ANC support for it being put to a higher and better use than it is today, with a focus on residential. So if the city, ended up being the buyer and they advance a, residential housing project or mixed use project, then that would still be, in line with what we're hoping to see happen in the corridor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is it any other questions? Is there a motion to vote on the resolution? Are we ready for a vote?
Motion to approve this resolution.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion passes. I will now, moving on to the next item on the agenda, I will skip Hearst Park for now. We'll go back to Hearst Park and I just want to get through the permits. So we'll discuss 4600 Fieldstone Lane.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
And
Yeah, thank you, Chair David. In a nutshell, 4600 Fieldstone Lane, the homeowner is Becky Brown, and she is joining the meeting tonight along with her landscape architect, Rhonda. I will turn it over to Becky in a second with just a quick thumbnail sketch of the overview. Becky bought the home, Ms. Brown bought the home in 2020 and contacted me a few days ago to raise the topic of this permit. The property has existing fences in place. It's a mishmash of wooden fences, metal fences, brick walls. It's one of those sort of properties that is often the case in Forest Hills, has just been sort of added onto over time and has a mishmash of lots of old structures. It is located on, the address is Fieldstone Lane, but I think most people will recognize it from, it is located on the corner of Brandywine and Broad Branch, right there at the bottom of the hill of Broad Branch before you turn onto Brandywine. Ms. Brown is seeking an exception to the fence height restriction for fences that are in public space, where the limitation for fence height is 42 inches. The reason why this comes to us is because she needs a public space permit in order to construct this fence, because unbeknownst to her, the fences that have been built previously, historically by previous owners, had been built at the time on public space. Maybe they didn't even know it, and there perhaps wasn't even a public space permit requirement back then. But she has now discovered by going through the permit process that the existing fence is on public space. So with that introduction, Ms. Brown, I will turn it over to you to give an overview and open it up to questions after that.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Rebecca Brown. You may call me Becky. I prefer that. Thank you. And I'm here tonight to present my request for a fence for my property, portions of which would require an exception to DC Department of Transportation's regulation on fences in public space. I'm a 20-year resident of Washington, DC, and I'm thrilled to have made Forest Hills my home after 19 years downtown. As Deepa said, I purchased my home in September 2020, and I just moved in October 1, 2022 after renovations were completed. With me tonight is my landscape architect, Rhonda Dahlkemper. She's the principal of her firm, Sage Studio, and she has nearly 30 years of experience as a licensed landscape architect. I've been very pleased with her work. Before I turn to the plan, I'd like to make a brief statement. My objective is simple, and my request, I believe, is narrowly tailored to achieve this objective. My goal is to ensure my safety and security and the security of those in the vicinity of my home, and also some privacy for an existing pool, which is on Brandywine. With respect to my safety, I live alone. It's so odd that I have to talk about this, but I had a formative experience as a child when close cousins of mine were shot to death in their home 2 blocks from my own home. And security has always been foremost on my mind and on my family's mind. It probably drove me to my career as a law enforcement attorney. Further, as beautiful and as wonderful as Forest Hills is, I think we all know it's not without crime. Of highest concern, there have been 2 robberies with a gun within several blocks of my home in the past 2 years, last January and the January before on Davenport and on Chesterfield. And that doesn't include the slightly farther, but still in Forest Hills, April 2022 attack when a man randomly attacked the home on Garrison with a metal pole and was shot by the Secret Service. After the first time, I had friends over to my yard during the pandemic and a fire pit night. The next day I was walking my dog and a man on a bike approached me and said he had seen me and my friends in my yard drinking bottles and around the fire pit, and just kind of slowly rode next to me for a while. I did not know he had been watching me. As I mentioned, there's also a pre-existing pool in my yard, which the yard, as Deepa mentioned, as you're driving north on Broad Branch, it's the red brick house at Brandywine. The yard that you see is my front, back, and side yard, and there is a pool in it. So I privacy-wise and safety-wise need to protect that pool and the people in the pool, myself, the children of my friends who come to visit. And there is a current privacy fence that I would like to modernize and update and make more beautiful for the neighborhood. With that, and also I'm sure people are aware of the attractive nuisance doctrine, which holds me responsible for trespassing children who might see a pool and want to enter it. Though there is a lot of fence around my property, as Deepa mentioned, there are a few gaps and it's easy to enter. There are a couple total gaps and there are a couple low gaps. So I'm just seeking to shore up the perimeter of my home to keep it safe for the inside and the outside. So I was told that someone would share the presentation. Rhonda can share it if it is not the presentation, the map, which is easier to kind of talk through.
Yep.
Ms. David, are you? Okay.
Rhonda, you can share.
Oh, Rhonda, okay. Rhonda, do you have it available? Thank you.
Okay, can you see that?
It says you've started screen sharing there. Yes, we can see that. Okay. So it is a complex property. To orient you, Brandywine is on the south and then Broad Branch is on the east. So imagine yourself driving north on Broad Branch and seeing the beautiful red brick house in front of you. The yellow and green highlighted lines are those pieces of fence that are in the public parking. Let's talk through them. The piece that would be the new piece is facing Broad Branch. I'm proposing a 6 to 7 foot, depending on the very, very varied grading, 6 to 7 foot metal picket fence facing, it's a 34-foot segment facing Broad Branch. And then there's a small segment facing my neighbors, and my neighbors have submitted a statement of no objection. And I will go through the full process that requires certified mail to be sent to my neighbor and for them to fill out forms. I will go through that with the DDOT process for public space. But for the purposes of tonight, they have submitted a statement of no objection and of support. So that would be that small segment that would connect the a fence that I'll be putting in between me and my neighbor on the north with the existing fence, like the kind of terrace topper that you can see as you're driving up Broad Branch. So that would shore up that corner. The building restriction line is the magenta dotted line, and so I can't put the fence inside the magenta dotted line because my house was built there in 1934. The next segment is Rhonda. Let's do the privacy fence segment. Between the pool and the sidewalk, there is an existing 6-foot privacy fence. It is not on the sidewalk. It is between 12 and 19 feet from the sidewalk. However, it cannot be within my building restriction line because the pool was built abutting the building restriction line. I'm merely seeking to replace the privacy fence that has been there in the 12 to 19 feet between the fence and the sidewalk. It is heavily planted. You might not know a pool is there, but if you took out the fence and put in a 42-inch fence, which the regulation requires, you would certainly see the fence, and it would, I think, call to walkers and children passing by. The more complex area is this green and yellow part by the stairs. So the homes in this area have stairs, have long stairwells towards the street that are not used. The fence around it, for lack of a better term, is just a little wonky. And I would just like to shore up the perimeter so no one can enter the property. There's currently a gap between the privacy fence and a fence that is, and the low gate. So the green segment on the bottom, Rhonda, is a segment that is not currently there, or that is that privacy, and we changed to picket.
Yes.
Okay, so that is currently part of the privacy fence, and we would change that to picket, so it would be more than 50% see-through. Along this north-south line that she's pointing to, and I know this is complex. This is, believe me, we've been looking at this picture for a long time. There's a lot here. This part is the part where there is absolutely no fence. There's nothing there, and you can walk in. And so I would like to put the same 6 to 7 foot, or it would be the total between the retaining wall and the picket fence would be less than 10 feet, which is the regulation. But it is in public space. And so that would be metal picket. And then this little piece she's pointing to is a gate that I would like to raise to 6 feet. It is currently low. It's actually currently broken. It's not even really, it's not functional at all. It's kind of at an angle. But I'd like to make that a nice secure fence. So to secure the property. And that's pretty, and then there's like that one additional segment she's pointing to. There's a huge planting in that circular piece. And I would just like to raise the fence a little bit. It is currently, I actually don't know how tall that fence currently is, but it's on top of a retaining wall. And again, the grading kind of goes up and down, but I would just like to put in a new segment that makes that piece secure and just secure the whole perimeter of the property. Rhonda, did I miss anything that we talked about?
No, I think you got it all.
And the commission, we've been working with the Commission on Fine Arts and a Commission of Fine Arts, and they have indicated their approval contingent on the approval of the Public Space Committee, which we are scheduled to go before in March.
Are there any questions from the commissioners? Any questions from the community? Can I get a motion to vote on approval of the permit for 4600 Fieldstone Lane?
I would like to make a motion to vote for approval, and I will just take a second to cite 3 reasons that I find particularly compelling. One is that the privacy reason, the security reasons are especially compelling, as we know from all of our prior ANC meetings over the past 2 years. Security and safety is an increasing concern in our community, and Becky's property sits very much in the area where frankly, it is easy to get in and out and get away if you were to perpetrate a crime right there on Broad Branch, which is what we are being told by MPD often in terms of crimes committed in Forest Hills. Second is that what she has proposed is not any further encroachment on public space than is the case today. And third, it is also compelling that the only neighbor who could conceivably have is conceivably impacted by this is not only not objecting, but is supportive. I've read the letter to that effect by the neighbor, which is the neighbor to the north where the dotted blue line is. Otherwise, she doesn't have any other neighbors. So there's no encroachment issues around light or air or views or anything like that. So with all that, I will make a motion to approve, to support, not so much approve since we don't, the ANC don't get to approve, but to support the granting of the permit for the exception to the fence height variance for this fence that is proposed, at least in part, on public space.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion passes.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you so much for all your help.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item of the agenda is 4111 Connecticut Avenue.
Alrighty, so this is also mine as well. So currently in 4111 Connecticut Avenue, they're building a new kind of like condo building that's set up. And so I was approached by Ed along with members of his team. I think Jack's in the call as well. And they essentially want to create kind of like an entryway lobby to like the new building itself. It includes a number of things such as like ADA compliant ramp, bike rack, entryway windows. And so I will let Jack and Ed take over and guys talk about it.
Okay. Hi, good evening. I'm Jack Devilbest from Bonster Harris Architects, working with the owner to public space at 4111 Connecticut Avenue for accessibility. I can share an illustration, a plan illustration of those proposed improvements.
Yes, please. Yep.
Okay, here we go. So what you see on your screen is Connecticut Avenue on the right. Not per normal, the north is at the bottom and south is at the top of this sheet. So you're looking at the east side of Connecticut Avenue here. What we're proposing is a, as was mentioned, an ADA accessible ramp for main entry to the multifamily building, as well as these concrete steps leading up to that same main entry. It's also a bike parking area that is located in public space that will be built at the same time. This is really a mixture of, mainly code requirements for accessibility. We've been working with DT and the Office of Planning within the design guidelines for public space. We've had several meetings with representatives from DDOT. This is the third iteration, and we're receiving their support. Any questions?
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Yes, any questions from commissioners?
Yes.
So just to be clear, so the public space permit covers the front of the building because like that
the public space part,
really the ramp and everything is all within the public space itself. So
correct.
For the
If
public
you can
space
see my
permit,
cursor,
yeah.
the face of the building is the property line,
Okay.
or the building restriction line, which is a de facto property line. As we just discussed with the previous example, we're working with that building restriction line here. So once we're in public space. So we're not seeking relief
per se, as much as we are going through the proper channels for review and approval from DDOT per their design guidelines.
Right. Yeah, you just need a public space permit. Okay.
Yes.
Any questions from the community? Are we ready for a vote?
I motion to approve the permits on 4111 Connecticut Avenue.
Is there a second? Monica Nemes seconded it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion passes.
Okay, thank you all for your time this evening.
Thank
you,
you.
Jack. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it.
Okay, take care. We stop sharing here.
Yes, and the next item on the agenda is the Hearst Park. I believe I have this. It's a Hearst Park resolution. This is UDC courts. And I believe everyone has already read the Hearst Park resolution. Sorry.
Do you need me to bring it up?
I have it.
You're good. Okay. Okay, just making sure I have it handy. So
Okay, thank you so much. Shoot, I need you to bring it up.
no worries. I got you. Like I said, it'll be top of the hour.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And we discussed this in our last meeting. There has not been any changes. There's a Hearst Park and Pool Improvement Project. Let me see, just scroll up. The Hearst Park and Pool Recreation Center describes the location that's currently ANC3F, and it's contingent with ANC3C. This resolution, the same language was passed by ANC3C last month. And there's a whereas the Hearst Park and Pool Improvement Project started with the fencing of the park and removal of over 100 trees in June 2019 and was delayed repeatedly until completion in spring 2022. There's been additional delays for project lack transparency in construction, decision and implementation. ANC3F, go up. Passed the resolution in support of Hearst Park and Pool Improvement Project. DGS and the general contractor for Hearst was the general contractor for Hearst Park and Pool Improvement Project. ANC3F were.
Commissioner David, I'm happy to speak to this resolution if you want. I know that David Crystal is not here. This is Corey Levine.
Oh, hey, hi, Corey. Yes, please.
Hi. Sorry. So, I mean, the gist of this resolution, which we discussed last month, is just requesting an investigation into the handling of the construction and the planning and all of the delays that went into the making of what is now a pretty decent park with a pool. There are still issues ongoing, including water issues that are threatening the heritage trees throughout the park, one of which already has died and has been removed. So, I mean, ANC3C and ANC3F, I mean, although ANC3F won't be encompassing Hearst Park after January 1, we've been involved in this throughout and attending all the meetings and interacting with Commissioner Che and talking to DGS and DPR. So this is just kind of recapping what has happened over the course of the last 2.5 years and asking for some accountability for the issues that arose and that are continuing with the park.
And the final request is to get, if you scroll
To
down.
request,
Yeah, OIG to do some investigations into the project.
Right.
Are there any questions from commissioners? Any questions from constituents? Corey, is there anything else we should know?
I would like to know whether or not this is going to have any effect, but we'll see. I hope that it does. I hope that's somehow, some way they're able to like respond to community comments in a more productive way in the future. And if this helps that happen, then all the better.
Okay, so all we're doing is asking OIG to review just Hearst Park project.
Right.
And basically do an audit of it that's currently in place, I guess.
Right.
Okay. Any questions from from commissioners? Are we ready for a vote? Can someone make a motion?
I move that ANC3F approves this resolution regarding Hearst Park and OIG audit.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you,
very much.
thank you, Corey. And the next item on the agenda is adjournment. I really like to thank all of the current commissioners for hanging in there for this last meeting. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for all the time that you put into doing this. Is a really difficult. It's a lot of work, and it's difficult work. So thank you all for serving. And is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn our December public meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And we have adjourned. Good night, everyone. Thank you. See you January 17th, 2023. Good night.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.